1h20 da manhã. Eu ia só dormir, mas também não tô com sono nessa porra. Então vamos fazer quarto dia, perna. É só você abaixar assim 20 vezes e já foi nessa porra. 3 séries de 20 já foi?
No sane company would entrust another game to a director who lost money. Fortunately for everyone, Miyazaki's ending is not quite like Solaire's. Miyazaki learned something which Solaire hadn't yet, or perhaps couldn't, in the Dark Souls world. Neither of them could do it alone. Solaire advises us about jolly cooperation, but perhaps hasn't taken it far enough. It's not jolly, it's essential. Solaire is a solitary adventurer. Standing there, watching the sun, we see his true nature. He is a solitary warrior, pursuing his quest alone. And he failed. Miyazaki couldn't have created his games alone. And he shows this in Solaire.
Aí não sei se eu faço abdominal.
Solaire's items are well maintained, but it's unlikely he invented the tool of a
Quero ir
sword,
almoçar, acho que vai dar ruim,
a
né?
helmet, or a shield. So too, must Miyazaki use tools and ideas that existed long before his
Eu
work.
faço só de leve.
Solaire paints the sun and religious symbols on his equipment. But look at the quality. He is no Da Vinci. Solaire can't do everything. Maintaining his sword and armor, fighting and traveling every day, he's got no room to be good at everything. This is a realization Miyazaki had. He needs his artists, his creators, and his team. Otherwise, he would end up like Solaire, alone and unappreciated. His creations would look like Solaire's shield, functionally sound but laughable to look at. We can see this in Miyazaki's attitude to his team. In every interview, whether for the design works or for accepting awards, he always thanks his team and emphasizes how much they do and how exceptional the quality of their work is.
2 minutos, eu vou ter que ficar esperado.
It's the
Descansar, né? Que a vida é foda.
representation of Miyazaki. With all the discipline, experience, and just damn likability that led to his success.
3h20 já foi?
Miyazaki even invented the Praise the Sun pose and performed it to his artists. But unlike Solaire, Miyazaki had some realizations about not going it alone, about avoiding the temptations of artistic delusion, about the need for a team. Without these realizations, a sun as great as the Soul series wouldn't have been possible, and Miyazaki might have kept it to himself, a parasite of creativity that ate away at him for the rest of his life, alone in his failure. Instead, Miyazaki created a new sun, which we are all so very lucky to enjoy.
They have a dimensional portal, and it leads to a parallel world.
What?
Yeah.
You meant your own self from a parallel dimension?
Seath, the perverted genius. Seath, the misunderstood. Seath, the ruthless. Seath, the lonely dragon. The story of Seath is complicated, full of heartlessness and manipulation, and regret. It is a long story, which starts just after the coming of the first flame. Seath is born an age ago, just after the birth of time, life and death, dark and light. As if to foretell his future, the primordial crystal also comes to exist at this time, formed in this new flame. Seath is born to the race of mineral beings, the ancient dragons, but he is born an imperfect one, not so flawed as a serpent, but he carries similarities to those imperfect dragons. His lower half is serpentine, writhing like a basket of snakes beneath him. He is unsighted, and most importantly, scaleless. Born pale and white, with a lack of sight, it is a similar affliction to human albinism. His absence of scales makes him different to his brethren in a consequential way. He is mortal. His kin will live forever if their natural lives are not disturbed by violence. Seath is certain to die if he does not save his life with cunning. Victim of the emotions which also came with the coming of the first flame, Seath gives in to his anger, his envy, his hurt, but more than anything, his fear. The malformed body which denied him his dragon birthright, his healthy, mighty peers around him, the emotions these things stir up are nothing compared to the fear which death inspires. This fear of death, more than anything else,
20.
leads to his decision to save himself at the cost of his own kind. Seath seeks to benefit from the destruction of dragons for numerous reasons. One is that he wishes to pillage the treasure of the primordial crystal from the dragons, insulating himself from death indefinitely. But much more important than that, he hopes to strip the dragons' corpses of their scales. He plans to pillage the dead bodies of his family after the war he will bring on them. Seath is convinced that the scales can somehow be reused, be reattached, grafted to his own body. This would free him from his mortal life, more so than a fragile crystal ever could. Between Seath's birth and the readiness of Seath's plan, the culture and power of the Lords has developed. As Seath is unable to kill dragons himself without his own kind slaying him, he betrays his kind to Gwyn, Nito, and the Witch of Izalith. This betrayal is likely the provision of key information. Seath reveals the secrets of the dragon scale's weakness, and it gives the upper hand to the Lords. Even with this information, the war is a mighty struggle, and there are many casualties for the Lords and their armies.
10 ou 11, quem sabe?
Are defeated. The end of the war brings a terrible realization for Seath. Seath is devastated to discover that the dragon scales are useless for his purposes. This fact was unknown to anyone before this time, due to their immortal lives. But Seath discovers that dragon scales are intimately connected to its dragon. As the dragon scale item description says, a dragon is inseparable from its scales. The dragon covenant learnt this too, and crossed the very end of the earth to seek this invaluable treasure. There may be more reliable ways to get dragon scales, but slaughter is an incredibly ineffective method. You're lucky to get one after a dragon's death, and even then it may be inert in terms of immortality potential. These inseparable scales that he hoped were the building blocks of his immortality are worth nothing more than sand. They crumble in his hands, becoming mineral powder. He screams to think of his immortal life, a sole dragon alone on the earth, with only a brittle crystal to protect him from mortality, from death. Seath is rewarded by Gwyn as his betrayal led to the victory over the dragons. Seath is gifted dukedom and granted access to the regal archives, a great storehouse of knowledge acquired by the Lords during the long years of culture before they challenged the dragons. Seath takes his treasure to the archives and for protection creates the crystal garden around it. He places invisible pathways amongst the maze, and in time adds creatures of his own invention to guard his precious life preserver. Moonlight butterflies and crystal golems, a visual testament to his genius, are brought to life and do his bidding. He begins a fruitful period of learning and invention, viewed by all to be his sane period. He learns much that the dragons did not, taking the Lord's knowledge from the archive and adding it to the knowledge that he learned from the dragons. Seath also experiments and philosophizes. He doesn't simply learn from others, he discovers.
Seu DNA carrega informações valiosas que ajudam a entender sua saúde.
Porra de Genera, porra de Adi.
Você conhece suas origens.
Quando eu ficar... Quando o YouTube me der qualquer dinheiro, se ele me der dinheiro suficiente para fazer uma inscrição, eu vou fazer a inscrição. Mas ele tem que me dar mais dinheiro do que a inscrição custa no mês. Impossível.
Before, he was scaleless, pale, but he becomes crystalline and colourful through his work. This work gives him the power of a true undead.
You must know that Seath is a true undead, different from ourselves. His wounds close properly and no mortal blow affects him, granting true insulation from death.
Now that he has crystallized himself, or large portions of himself, he is untouchable. He goes on to have a remarkable string of productivity and creativity. He creates the crystal ember, an invention of his own which he loans out to the Lord's blacksmiths. He becomes the grandfather of sorcery, the first user and inventor from which most sorcery is adapted and follows from, apart from the sorcery of Ulusil, which develops independently. He takes on servants, or creates them, with his channelers learning impressive sorcery from him. Their 6 eyes compensate for his lack of sight, essential for his progress in lordship. He also adds to the archives, keeping records of his progress and learning. These are additions to the library.
The fruits of superior wisdom with an unquenchable desire for the truth.
Likely respected
Descansar que eu senti essa última 20, velho.
for good in the land of Vordran.
Agora eu devo sentir algo. Eu não vou até a falha, mas eu vou fazer os 20.
On one thing, immortality. Not content with the fragile primordial crystal, he is still set on another solution. After all his years of research, he has still only one answer: the immortality of the dragons. His new crystal form is no match, and both together would be an insulation from death like none in history. His learning also begins to reach a new stage: incomprehensibility. To this point, his actions have been remarkable, but understandable. The invention of an ember is comprehensible. The outside world can understand his works and creations thus far. But this begins to change. Slowly, his inventions, intentions, and actions begin to become mysterious to everyone
See
but
this
all his
canvas.
servants around him. Begins a great new undertaking. It will not be won easily, but
All progress demands sacrifice.
Seath's desire is to produce an ancient dragon. If he has a dragon, or several, he can attempt his dragon-scale experiments while they are alive, without the wrath of the ancient dragon community. He has destroyed it. Having brought totally new creatures to life before, his new challenge is to bring a creature of the past back to life. He begins to take care of the assets and potential tools of his creations. These are, most importantly, anything that possesses dragon nature, anything down the descendant of the dragon line that has some proximity to dragons. He sends a unit of crystal golems to guard the hydra.
Só pra não fazer, só pra
Permanently guard
Só pra deixar. Só pra não fazer, tá entendendo?
has been twisted by corrupting.
Em vez de deixar sem nada. Qualquer coisinha conta. Mas acabei de almoçar, não dá pra fazer nada não.
Has great potential for
Jantar, né? 2 da manhã, achei de dormir.